Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my Smackdown review. Also going to review the Mixed Match Challenge, also in this video. And tonight's Smackdown was from the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas. And coming off another shitty Monday Night Raw last night, which was just as bad as last week. I gotta say, Smackdown tonight, it was an enjoyable show. It was much, much better than Monday Night Raw last night. There was some positives tonight. There was, little negatives, but all in all, it was an enjoyable show. I really liked SmackDown tonight and enjoyed it. But SmackDown opened up with Paige in the ring. It was for the contract signing for the first ever women's triple threat TLC match between Asuka, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. And so Paige was in the ring, and she says that SmackDown isn't just the land of opportunity. It's the brand that makes history. And she then introduces the participants in the first ever triple threat TLC match, and those three were Asuka, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. So they all end up coming out. Of course, Becky Lynch gets a pop from the crowd, and Becky says, when you're the man, which they now call Becky the Man. So Becky says, when you're the man, you make history every time you're in the ring. And she says she plans to do the exact same thing at TLC. So I have to say that SmackDown pretty much doing a good job at building to TLC. Much better than Monday Night Raw's build to the pay-per-view. And she says at TLC, Becky says at TLC, she's going to do everything it takes to win. And so Charlotte gets on the mic, and she says for Becky to change the song, because, we've been hearing it every single week. And Charlotte says Becky picked up the ball that she dropped at Survivor Series. And she ended up, and Charlotte says she destroyed Ronda with a kendo stick. And she says it took one punch for Nia to punch Becky. And she says to Becky to imagine what she is going to do to her at TLC. So Charlotte, going a little heel right here. And Asuka says, Becky beat Charlotte, but Becky has never beat her. And Asuka says she would have beaten Ronda, and at TLC she will beat Becky. Of course, Asuka got a little pop from the crowd, and so Charlotte was like, "Oh, you're going to beat Ronda," and Charlotte tells her she beat Asuka at WrestleMania and broke her streak, which we all know. After that, Asuka has, pretty much been in a downward slump since Charlotte, broke her streak at WrestleMania this year. And so Asuka tells Charlotte she got lucky only one time, which that was at WrestleMania. So Becky goes on to say none of them can beat Ronda or her. And so Becky ends up signing the contract. Sorry about that, but I was saying Becky ends up signing the contract, ends up leaving the ring just like a boss, which, just how the way she got out of the ring, walked to the back, it was awesome. Loving this style of Becky. And Charlotte goes on to say that Becky is all talk these days, and she's going to beat her, and she's going to beat Asuka once again. She goes on to say that at TLC, she's going to finish Asuka. And Asuka was like, Asuka says, how about I break you right now to Charlotte? And so out came Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Mandy says to Paige, is this how, you want to make history with these two undeserving women instead? Because, Mandy wants, Paige to put her and Sonya Deville in the match because, they were part of Absolution together. And Mandy says to Charlotte that she lost at Survivor Series. And Sonya goes on to say Charlotte won that Battle Royal by fluke, and that Sonya made a mistake. Or as I would say, Asuka won that Battle Royal by fluke. Sorry about that, but I was saying Sonya Deville ends up going on to say that Asuka ended up winning that Battle Royal last week by fluke, and that Sonya made a mistake, and that she was the most dominant woman in that Battle Royal, and she promises it won't happen again. And so Mandy Rose says to Paige about, what happens if both Asuka and Charlotte don't make it to TLC. And so Paige ends up making a match. It was going to be Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose versus Asuka and Charlotte. And the match took place after the commercial. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Shane McMahon there backstage. Miz ends up approaching him, saying to Shane, why is he hosting Miz TV with Daniel Bryan tonight? And Shane says to Miz, it's must see. Miz says to Shane that, they are partners, and he's going to do his best hosting tonight. Shane says to him, they are not partners, and his job tonight is to get the answers out of Daniel Bryan. So pretty much in that was, what happened with Shane and Miz. And then we got on to the match, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose versus Asuka and Charlotte. Tag team match. This match, it was decent women's match. It was entertaining because, with Asuka and Charlotte, Sonya and Mandy were really decent. And Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose end up winning the match because we had Charlotte booting Asuka off the apron, and then Asuka ended up coming in, ended up kicking Charlotte, and it led to Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose win the match. So it was a decent women's match, decent women's tag team match. Then we had Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods and Cesaro in a triple threat match. And this was a really enjoyable match. This was a good match between the three of them. And the one highlight of this match was Cesaro ended up picking up Xavier Woods. He had Xavier Woods on his shoulders, and he had Jey Uso, and he did the spin in, the Cesaro spin with Jey Uso and Xavier Woods on his shoulders, which was awesome. And I know Xavier Woods made the wrestling news in the articles where Xavier end up bashing WWE fans, calling them infants, which, you know, he just buried himself there in just that single interview. I mean, Xavier Woods, he needed to watch what he said, because now people possibly gonna, you know, hate Xavier Woods for you know, what he said, calling the WWE fans, you know, infants. So, but at the end of this match, Jey Uso ended up winning, ended up hitting a super kick to Cesaro. So, but overall, it was a good triple threat match. It was a very entertaining match, and that Cesaro spin, where he spun Jey Uso and had Xavier Woods on his shoulders, that was really cool. And of course, you had Kofi and Big E do their commentary on the match, because they had the New Day commentary table out there. So, but it was a good triple threat match, very entertaining. And then we had Kayla Braxton. She ended up interviewing Rusev, and you know, Rusev was there with Lana, and Kayla ends up saying to Rusev that, you know, he went up against Nakamura last week and the match didn't happen, and they show you know, a clip of, you know, what happened last week, where the match never got underway with Nakamura just attacking Rusev. And Kayla Braxton says to Rusev, you know, does he know why Nakamura attacked him before the match? And Rusev goes to say Nakamura is afraid of him. And he says that, Rusev says he's strong and relentless, and he's hungry, which he was talking about himself. And he's like, he's hungry for his United States title. He goes on to say that the title represents honor, and among other stuff. And he says he's not going to avoid, he goes on to say that, you know, he's not going to avoid Nakamura this time. And he's going to feast on Nakamura on Rusev Day. So that was that interview with Rusev. Then we had Miz TV. Miz was out there, of course. And then R-Truth and Carmella come out just randomly, and they just do a dance break, a 7-second dance break, and then they both go to the back, which was really random. But then the Miz, you know, starts Miz TV. Says over the course of the 8-year saga, Daniel Bryan has been on Miz TV so many times, and he ends up introducing Daniel Bryan, the new Daniel Bryan. And so Daniel Bryan ends up coming out. Miz says to Daniel that he looks like the old Daniel, but there is something new about this, you know, this Daniel Bryan. Goes on to say that this new Daniel Bryan seems more confident, and that his eyes are open, and he's not listening to people's opinions. And, you know, he goes on to say that Daniel Bryan chose to be a winner, and he goes to say that Daniel will finally realize Miz was right all along. And Daniel Bryan says, everybody thought the old Daniel Bryan was very smart, and he doesn't care about the people, and he allowed his dreams to take control. And he says he has books where he can consult the great minds of history. He mentions, you know, Alexander Hamilton. And he goes, well, the secret word that was used tonight, fickle. And the crowd, was chanting "what" when Daniel Bryan was talking. So when Daniel Bryan was talking, the crowd would just go "what, what," the whole Stone Cold "what," which is so outdated, in my opinion. But it's funny though when people still do the "what" chants, because it's so outdated. But Daniel Bryan, when the crowd starts chanting "what," Daniel Bryan takes jabs at them for that, which was funny. He goes on to say that the people are sheep. And Miz ends up telling him what Alexandra Hamilton wrote is that Miz has been saying for years about, with Daniel Bryan. And Daniel says Miz dances around the issue and never gets to the point. He goes on to say he kicked Styles in the groin on one day. And then he goes and talks about people harming the earth every day with their consumptions. He goes on to say these people account atrocities every single day, year, and months. And Miz goes on to say for 8 years, Daniel Bryan has painted him as the bad guy. And that he fooled everyone. He says to Miz says to Daniel that, he owes him. And if he is WWE champion because of everything, or if, Daniel is just WWE champion because of everything the Miz had said. And, he's like, oh, is that a yes or a no? Daniel Bryan ends up saying yes. And he also says no. Yes and no is what Daniel Bryan said. And he says the only thing that matters is the old Daniel Bryan is dead. The yes movement is dead. And, when he said, like the whole yes movement, the yes plates, end up dropping. He dropped the yes plates. And he goes on to say that he is the new WWE champion. And so AJ Styles ends up coming out. And Daniel Bryan ends up shoving Miz into AJ Styles. Daniel Bryan ends up running out of the ring, running into the crowd. But Styles ends up retreating him, putting Daniel Bryan back in the ring. Miz ends up taking a shot at Styles. And Styles then throws punches at Daniel Bryan. Miz ends up coming and delivers a Skull Crusher finale to AJ Styles to end the other segment. But it was a good segment. It was a good Miz TV segment. Really enjoyable. Sorry about that, but like I said, it was good. It was a good Miz TV segment. And then after that, we had Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. Once again, we've seen the both of them go at it before. This was a decent match between the both of them, but like I said, we have seen it before. And when the match started, Jeff Hardy just went after Randy Orton, just started taking him down. There's a one point in the match where Jeff Hardy ended up putting Randy Orton on. He ended up slamming Randy Orton on the announce table. Randy Orton was, on the announce table. Jeff Hardy went to the top. Looked like he was gonna, jump and leap onto Randy Orton and put Randy Orton through the announce table. But he was then interrupted by Samoa Joe, who was on the Titantron. He was at a bar. Samoa Joe was at a bar, saying, Jeff Hardy is saying Jeff is having a hell of a match. And then all of a sudden, Randy Orton just comes in with an RKO and pins Jeff Hardy. So Randy Orton ends up winning the match. But a decent match. Then after the match, Joe was back on the Titantron, and he was doing his own public service announcement about drinking. Because, you were still at the bar, and he was like, oh, drink responsibly. So we just got a Samoa Joe PSA. So, but really enjoyed Samoa Joe. Can't wait to see Joe and Jeff Hardy go at it. I think it will be a really good match between the both of them. And hell, I would like to see a pairing, of a tag team with Samoa Joe and Randy Orton. I think they would make a good tag team if WWE decides to do that. Put make Samoa Joe and Randy Orton a furious good tag team together. Sorry about that again, getting interrupted. But yeah, I'd like to see WWE put Samoa Joe and Randy Orton together and make them a tag team. I think that would be pretty awesome to see. And then we had the main event, AJ Styles versus The Miz. Of course, this match took place after what happened at the end of the Miz TV segment earlier in the night. Daniel Bryan was out there on commentary, watching the match, and this was an entertaining match between Styles and Miz. It was an entertaining main event, and AJ Styles ended up winning the match, ended up blocking in the calf crusher to the Miz. Miz ended up tapping out. So Styles ended up winning. After the match, Daniel Bryan ended up taking shots at Styles' leg, to the back of Styles' leg. He then rams Styles' leg into the ring post quite a few times. Daniel Bryan ends up taking Styles, ends up slamming Styles' head on the announce table. Then Daniel, once again, we go back into the ring. Daniel ends up taking out Styles' leg again, and just Daniel Bryan just doing damage to Styles' leg. You had him slam Styles' head into the canvas a few times, and we saw he end up going to Daniel Bryan ended up going to SmackDown ring announcer Greg Hamilton to announce him as the WWE champion, make him clear to the people. And so Greg Hamilton ends up getting on the mic and says, "Here's your WWE champion, the new Daniel Bryan." And so Daniel Bryan was standing on the announce table, and he gets on the mic and says to the people, "Oh, you don't approve of this?" And he goes, "Fickle." And he goes, "Oh, you people don't cheer? Fickle." And he goes on to say, "Oh, you people don't love the new Daniel Bryan? Fickle." And so Daniel Bryan runs into the ring. Well, before that, he kept on saying fickle, 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 fickle so many times. And so Daniel Bryan ends up running back to the ring, starts taking out Styles' leg again, and SmackDown went off the air. So Daniel Bryan doing some damage to Styles' leg. Overall, the match between Styles and The Miz was an enjoyable main event. And now on to the Mixed Match Challenge. We have the first match. It was Carmella and R-Truth versus Charlotte Flair and Jeff Hardy. This was a fun match. Of course, you had a dance break between Carmella and R-Truth. And yeah, one point where Jeff Hardy was going to hit the Swanton Bomb on R-Truth, and Carmella ends up coming in trying to block Jeff Hardy from hitting the Swanton to Truth, because Carmella just flops on top of R-Truth, and Charlotte ends up pulling out Carmella out of there. Jeff Hardy goes to hit the Swanton, but R-Truth moves out of the way, and right from there Truth ends up pinning Jeff Hardy, and so Carmella and R-Truth win the match. They move on to the semifinals next week, because the Mixed Match Challenge Season 2 concludes at TLC. Whoever wins next week, they get to move on to TLC, and whoever wins at TLC ends up getting a number 30 spot at the Royal Rumble for the men and the women, and they get a vacation. So yeah, Carmella and R-Truth are moving on to the semifinals, which is taking place next week. It was also announced for next week that it's going to be Finn Balor and Bayley versus Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. So that's happening next week. And so it's going to be semifinals. And then we have last match in the Mixed Match Challenge, the Miz and Asuka versus Jimmy Uso and Naomi. This was another fun, entertaining match between the Miz and Asuka, Jimmy Uso, and Naomi. Of course, you had Asuka, getting pops from the crowd. The Miz and Asuka end up getting the win. Asuka ended up locking in the Asuka lock on Naomi to win the match. And so the Miz and Asuka end up moving on to the semifinals next week. So, but entertaining match. Then you're gonna have the Miz and Asuka versus R-Truth and Carmella next week. So that's happening. So yeah, so overall tonight it was a pretty fun Mixed Match Challenge as we head to the semifinals and to the final match at TLC. So yeah, so anyways, like I said, SmackDown was an enjoyable show tonight. I really enjoyed it. Really liked the opening segment with the contract signing for the first ever Triple Threat Women's TLC match. I thought Asuka did really good on the mic, and the matches were entertaining. So SmackDown much better than Monday Night Raw last night. Really liking SmackDown's build for TLC. So yes, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's SmackDown and also the Mixed Match Challenge. Thank you all for watching, and hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until the next video, I'll see you all later.